Hello, this is Ender, and welcome to a New Year's Day VR podcast. Perhaps you, the viewer, like many of us, enjoyed the many VR podcasts already out there. Since VR is such a personal experience, I thought a show with new perspectives discussing what might happen in VR/XR field in this new year would be of interest to you. We will discuss three main categories: the ever-growing Quest Standalone segment. What does the mid-range even look like this year as far as the mid-range of VR? And will the high-end trickle down to a wider user base in 2024? As for me, I enjoy sharing my passion for VR on YouTube and in person via Try My Tech, with a focus on making VR as immersive as an experience as possible. And that's enough for me. Let me introduce today's guests, beginning with BMac. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Hello, yeah, I'm BMac VR. I've got a relatively small YouTube channel. I would kind of like to talk about games, pretty much, just kind of the games that I like to play. But I did just hit 500 subscribers, so
congratulations!
Thank you. It's
excellent. Yeah, and we've enjoyed playing some VR games a bit, and I've also enjoyed playing some VR games with Kevin. Kevin, why don't you share a little bit about yourself with the audience today?
Yeah, so I'm starting 2024 off with a new adventure. I've quit my job and decided to pursue writing my own VR game. Actually, it'll probably be more likely a game that supports VR, but also available on the regular flat screen, just to have that a little bit more possibility of an audience, because this will be the first game I've ever written, and it's not going to be a very complicated one, but it's going to be an adventure. I'm going to try to give myself the timeline of 1 year and see how far I can get with this.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we can always use more VR games. So thank you for adding to those additional experiences we can have. And we also have another game dev here on the channel. Oshev, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Yeah, what I like the most about VR is like physicality. So the once Quest 2 was out, I bought it and tried it. I was so excited. You don't need to sit in front of a flat screen anymore. So, and I was like happy of playing my hands around and head. But then I thought, okay, that's not enough. I want legs. And then I bought a year ago, I bought the treadmill, the Catwalk C2, and tried it, loved it. Like my dream came true. But then I realized, it has some limitations, as many other VR locomotion systems. And the limitations being that the games don't support it. So basically what you can do is only push the joystick in some direction. That's how you move. I saw potential that you can do much more. So if you have this data from legs and you can interact with your legs with the environment, you have the body mass and all those stuff. So, and that's how I decided to build my own game, which is a bit more physical, and it takes all this information into account. And I started this summer. I've been working on this since summer, and my goal is to be like one step ahead, maybe from Boneworks and Walking Dead. These titles which are very physical already, but are not about locomotion. And I share my progress on my YouTube channel, and it's Utopia Machina for Body VR gaming.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, the Cat VR, the software's gotten better, but it's still very rarely are things ever work perfectly, and that's true with a lot of VR experiences, as we all know. And hopefully we can talk about some more advanced things that are happening this year. And thank you very much, Oshev. And then Michelle, someone I've played with quite a bit. I would say a lot with Dungeons of Eternity, my favorite game of the year. Michelle, could you share with us a little bit about what you enjoy about VR?
Well, I've been a gamer for a long time, and I got the Quest to replace my Wii Fit when my Wii died. So I was mainly doing fitness type games, and then I just got hooked and branched off and went to PC VR and just loving it.
Awesome.
I don't play flat games much anymore.
Yeah, same here. We sound like snobs sometimes we say, "Oh, I don't do Pancake anymore." But we will be talking about how that may be changing and how there may be there's some exciting news on the horizons with mid-range PC VR and the Unreal Injector mod later on. Speaking of which, I guess we should move on to our topics. So I think the first one I'll just open it up with is obviously Quest Quest 1 was what got me into VR during the pandemic lockdown. And then we've had the immensely popular Quest 2 and now the Quest 3. And it dominates the VR market. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'd like to open it up generally. And I'll leave it at that and let anyone chime in however they'd like to on that topic.
Well, I think I'll start with what I think about the Quest in general. See, I started with the Rift, the original, not the original development kit, but the first one for consumers. And I was playing Skyrim VR at that point, and also Elite Dangerous. And in the case of Elite Dangerous, it's a sit-down game, and in the case of Skyrim, you're up and moving around. And with the tether and so forth, it was a lot of trouble. And so they came out with the Quest later, and then I don't remember if Airlink came out with the Quest 2 or if it came out with the Quest 1 and then was also on the Quest 2. But at any rate, what I think Facebook has done in that particular case, and I'm no fan of Facebook, but what I think they've done is they've really lowered the bar there, to getting into VR. You got your entry point there that anybody with a few $100s can get started with it, and a lot of the other headsets and so forth, where we're starting to get up to the the dollar range. But with the standalone headset, you can. I mean, the games aren't as obviously as robust as the PC VR games are, but the nice thing about the Quest is that it is a device that can do both. It gives you the most bang for the buck. Honestly, I want to see more competitors for it. I want to see like the Pico succeed. I want to see other standalone headsets that also can do PC VR, because I think the competition encourages innovation.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, it's I hope Pico sticks with it, because they kind of seem like they're like taking a foot out, because they've kind of backed down. I don't know if they had the right expectations for when they launched the Pico 4, but they really don't seem all that thrilled with the response that they've gotten. And it seems like it's really a pretty good and capable headset. And I agree, we definitely need more competition in the space. But I think sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to add, I think Meta is doing an amazing job and getting VR to masses, And I'm not happy about Meta either. I prefer it was some different company,
Mhm.
But that's what we have. And actually, the good thing about them, I don't think any small company could actually move the needle, because they invest so much, and they're selling at such a low price, and I don't think it's ever possible with less financing. But the bad things about them is that it's closed, like you said. It's closed meta system, and you cannot do much about it. So, for example, one of the biggest frustrations for me is like you cannot add an alternative input system there. And so basically you cannot add periphery easily. That's a big problem for cat VR as well, and for any kind of peripheries. But
Yeah,
it'd be cool if you could just add like a wheel in, if someone wanted to play a racing game with the wheel, but it's just, I mean, maybe with them adding in like Xbox Game Pass, and because the Quest does support an Xbox controller, right?
It does, but the problem is that I think the games have to support it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you build a game, actually you can add different inputs, and then a lot of VR games, their titles, they don't have it. But now that the Xbox is there, maybe they will add it, and then it will be easier to add other peripherals as well.
Yeah, that's my biggest kind of question with Standalone Quest in particular, right? It's the most affordable entry point, and there's so many games, and there's so much potential there. But because it's such a closed system, it really limits, I think, what is the biggest draw for me, or the biggest thing that excites me about VR, which is the immersiveness. Some of you have seen my videos and played with me. I like to go crazy. I put on the haptics gear. I got the treadmill. I've got the Pro Volver, the Pro Tubes, and I like that stuff because it adds to the virtual reality experience even more. But it's all really hard to do that. Not only is it expensive, it's really hard to do that stuff. Some things you can pair easily, like the haptics can just pair right to the Quest, but that's only if the game supports it. And then some things like I love the Cat treadmill, but a lot of people's concern is the cost of, I have to get a PC to connect it. You do, but there's this thing called the Nexus they created, which Cat VR has made a lot of efforts, so you can just connect your Quest with a device wirelessly to your treadmill or your Loco S, the little walk-in play system, so it's more affordable. But they have to kind of hack their way into the game to make it work. And as some of us who've tried it know, it's really frustrating, and it's frustrating for the developer. So I kind of wonder, yes, on the one hand, you are making VR accessible to more people in a cost-effective way, but on the other hand, are you also limiting the experience too much because it's too much of a hassle to get into all these different things and all these different elements? What does everyone think on that topic?
Well, one of the things I think about also when pairing other devices with the Quest is that you have to remember that it's the technology of a cell phone. It's not a PC. It doesn't have the same graphics capabilities because otherwise you're wearing a PC on your head or tethered to one. The reason there's very good technical reasons why the headset doesn't perform the same way a PC does, because it's just cell phone technology. It's your applications are running Android, and it's the same as writing a mobile game, but it is amazing what it can do, and with the Snapdragon chips and so forth, of how nice the graphics are and so forth. So my thoughts are that the technology at this point limits us, for one, because there's only so many things you can hook up at the same time. But as you say, it is a closed system. It's difficult to get in there and do any sort of custom drivers and so forth for it. I know for example, with Unreal Engine, you can get the source code for their drivers and so forth when you grab their copy of the Unreal Engine source code, which you have to go through an approval process. It's a very minor approval process, but you still have to be granted access to that code. And then you're able to get in there, but there's some documentation. They're not going to show you how you have to do it. You got to go through and read a lot of C++ code. And I've been doing software development for 30 years, and I'm not going to go do that. So I don't expect a lot of other people to be willing to do that either.
It's a possibility of getting some system agnostic games out there, like a Play Store that you don't have to have a specific phone to use. So
well, that's sort of the idea behind OpenXR, because with OpenXR, it's an agreement between multiple companies that they will follow a certain pattern in developing their items, and as a result, a developer can do a VR game that is written for OpenXR, and it's kind of like writing for a VW bug or something like that. Everything is at a more common bottom of the bar level, where all these devices will support this, but anything specific like maybe hand tracking or eye tracking and so forth, that's all going to be pretty much tied up with a vendor, and that might not be exposed or available in a non or at a lower level of OpenXR.
On the other hand, the Quest is what it offers. It's reliability, right? So with PC, I don't know how about you, but whenever I try to show some PC games for my friends, and I want to connect them. Well, I want to show them the catwalk. First 10 minutes, I'm just saying, sorry, wait. It's always something's crashing, something is not working, something disconnects. It's just frustrating. And well, if you do it very often, you kind of get smoother experience, but it's nowhere close to standalone headsets where you just put it on and you play. It's the same kind of experience we have with consoles. They're also closed systems, right? So this Xbox and PS5, and you can. But what you get is just you have smooth play, and you don't need to install anything. You don't need to deal with updates, frustration, drivers, whatever. And it's a price you have to pay for for convenience.
And let me interject real quickly. This is Pixel, everyone. Sorry, I had a mistake when he joined, and I accidentally kicked him out of here. So, Pixel, thank you for joining us, and sorry about that. Just issues of running a podcast for the first time, new experiences, new mistakes, and everyone's kind of gone along and said their interest in VR, XR, in the general field. You haven't missed too much. We've just been talking about Quest Standalone and whether or not it's a good thing or bad thing. So I want to give you a chance too. Is there anything you'd like to share with us as far as what your interest is in the VR field?
So I got into PC gaming in 2020 because I wasn't getting out for some reason. And within a month, I built my first full body VR rig and installed Windows on a PC for the first time. I'm a software developer. I worked in aerospace simulation, so not totally new to all this. But we did all our stuff in Windows, and I also have a Mac for work. So I'm new to gaming. All this stuff, everyone's like, I did this 10 years ago. It's all new to me.
Yeah.
But I am a technologist, so I'm on that side of it. And I'm totally with you on the reliability thing. That's the one thing that gives me hope for Virtuix, because the Omni One is a standalone headset. There are things that reduce my hope in the Omni One, like they're bragging about having 30 games, but anyway, like stop bragging about that. That doesn't look good.
For sure. Yeah, we were talking earlier. One thing I kind of brought up is, the Nexus for the Cat VR treadmill that you could, in theory, use Standalone Quest with that. But it's very tough for Cat to get that to work. And that's one thing Oshev was just talking about. And some of us, the question I just posed was, it's great that Quest Standalone is so popular. That's how I got into VR. That's how a lot of people got into VR. It's affordable, it's easy to use, but then, of course, there's limitations from being able to, what I like to do, and I think some others here do as well, add immersiveness, the ability to use a treadmill, be haptics, whatever it is to make VR more immersive. And that's kind of what Osha was saying. He was just saying that there's a lot of challenges. And have you tried a Quest Standalone, or do you have just any kind of thoughts in general on whether or not Quest is a good thing or a bad thing for your interest in VR?
I actually just borrowed my friend's Standalone Quest 2 because he was never using it.
Mm-hmm.
And all he did was set it up. I haven't used it yet. I do want to try deving on it. I'm just curious, is anyone here not an engineer? Okay. One of my friends told me that the majority of gamers are not, in fact, engineers and software developers. And I didn't know if that was true or not.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, I'm new to PC gaming, but I've done console gaming before.
And as I said at the beginning of the show that you missed there, sorry, my fault. It's great that we have multiple perspectives because we get to hear from the devs' perspectives and you'll hear what gamers take for granted probably all the time and what you guys have to do and those of you who do that. And at the same time, you hear the other side of things where gamers, what their expectations are, and we can all discuss that together.
Yeah. My dev side is a long time ago. We didn't have game engines. We wrote in C++ with OpenGL, which is this ancient thing that predates Vulkan.
I did this as well. I tried. Even before university, I tried to develop games. It was so frustrating. You would fight with the graphic cards and whatnot. And now when I tried it again with Unreal and Unity, it's just such a different experience. Same with data
I heard
science.
I heard an analogy once about, working with, I mean, I used to work with OpenGL as well. And I heard an analogy once about how working with what OpenGL is like. So working with Unity or some other game engine, and you want to build a house. So it's like having somebody show up with all the pieces for that house, and all you got to do is just kind of bolt it together. And maybe you got to build a few extra things, like if you want a porch, you have to build that porch out and so forth. But when you are given OpenGL to go write something, and they say, okay, go build your house, what they give you is the forest. There's your wood. Go figure it out.
It'll make your own shovel, huh?
Yeah. I think that's even more true of Vulkan from what I've seen of it. Is bandwidth an issue? Should we switch to our face icons?
I think we're all doing okay, unless anyone sees any issues.
I'm doing all right, I think.
So I think it's kind of interesting that the Quest 2 is outselling the Quest 3 still. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but I think it's almost like 2-1. And I wonder if that presents a weird problem for Meta, in that there'll come a time, I think, when a lot of Quest 3 owners are ready to kind of say, where are my Quest 3 exclusive games? And I don't know if Meta is going to be able to make a real clean cut there or not.
XR?
What do you guys
Someone's
think?
showing us something.
Yeah, I thought I'd share the most talked about thing right now with Quest 3 / Quest 2. We're talking. This is Asgard's Wrath, which is a standalone only game, and people are saying is, the best standalone VR game that exists right now. So I just thought I'd have this playing, and you can play it on Quest 2, you can play it on Quest 3. And I don't want to sidetrack the conversation. Sorry, everyone continue where you were, but I just thought it might be good to have this as a topic to discuss while we're playing this here.
Well, and Asgard's Wrath is kind of what made me think of that, because there was a lot of people that were kind of in an uproar over it for whatever reason. Like I think it looks great in the headset, but when it first launched on Quest 3, there's a lot of people complaining about low res Quest 2 textures, which I thought was kind of entertaining still, but.
Yeah, when I tried the Quest 2, I did see a screen door effect, which I wasn't used to because I use a Vive. I have a Vive Pro 2. And at first I'm like, what's wrong with this? And then I realized, oh, duh. It's just, I'm used to a better headset. I'm spoiled. But
I started
I think the Quest 3 is better, right?
Yeah, I started with Quest 1. It was screen door, especially like someone mentioned Elite Dangerous. Like you can't read the text. Quest 2, it's readable. Screen door is noticeable. Quest 3, it's still there, but it bugs me compared to, I'm fortunate enough to have a Crystal on loan where I don't see it at all. Then that's kind of my perspective. But others, please chime in.
Well, I'm getting old, so my eyesight's failing. and honestly, I'm at the point where I've like I said earlier, I have used an awful lot of Oculus equipment. I've used the Rift, Quest 2, and now the Quest 3. And yes, very, very clearly, the screen door effect has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. The Rift was horrible, absolutely horrible, certainly by today's standards. But honestly, my eyesight really has not changed that much since I was 20. But I guess I've just gotten used to it, and I do see a difference between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3, but it's nothing that is game changing to me. It doesn't detract from the game, in my opinion. I'm more interested and I've moved on from being worried about how much screen door there is to how enjoyable is the game. It's the graphics are not in the way for me anymore.
I totally disagree. The Quest 2 visuals always looked blurry, even with prescription lenses. When I put the Quest 3 on for the first time, it was crystal clear. I thought I didn't need prescription lenses with it. I did end up buying them, and it made it even better.
Yeah, my wife uses prescription lenses on her. She's got the inserts that go in, and I really haven't heard from her what she thinks as far as the graphics go. We're more dealing with the fact that she gets motion sick too easily.
Yeah.
I had a weird experience with the Quest 3 and its prescription lenses. So I have my vision is okay, but it's like -1. And on Quest 2, I actually didn't need prescription lenses. I think I thought I was fine, and it was like Michelle says, it was blurry, a little bit blurry. And then I bought Quest 3 and I put it, and it's even blurrier. And I was like, wow, why is it like this? It's not better. And I couldn't figure out. And then I said, okay, let's try with the glasses. And I tried with glasses. Now it's clear, crystal clear, no blurriness whatsoever. And I don't know, I think maybe it's Pancake Lenses. This is something it has to do with them. So now when they changed to this new technology, I couldn't see clearly without prescription lenses. And once I put them, now it's fine. And like for me, the difference is huge. Oh,
Does anyone here know
I'm
how
alone now?
Pancake Lenses work?
I think there's 2 elements to them, right? Or is it 2 or 3 elements, Ender? Do you know?
I know it's called Pancake Lenses because it is a lens stack. I'm probably, man, if sadly as Bradley's watching, he's going to rip me apart on how I'm going to bungle my way through this. So he's kind of who I try to learn from. So, we have Pancake Lenses. There's 2 lenses or more. I think mainly 2. And the idea is with a lens, you've got curvature, right? So you've got some distortion, and that kind of affects your image quality. And then having 2 lenses allows you to find, I guess, a balance between distortion and field of view. I know one of the trade-offs with Pancake Lenses, again, if I'm not mistaken, is you do get a decreased brightness because you're stacking lenses. So that's one of the downsides. There is no perfect lens. If you go to a spheric, like you see on the Crystal, I believe the Somnium VR1, you've got better brightness, but then you've got, I think,
Those are kind of like thicker, like Fresnel, right? The spheric ones are. So you can't get that smaller form factor.
Yes, so they're much larger. You don't have Fresnel effects. There's no rings, right? And I think that's a big thing with the Quest 3 too, kind of off that topic, is we're moving away from Fresnel. You're moving away from those ring lenses, which had that glare and more than anything, right? And we're getting to a newer generation of clearer lenses, hands down. So yeah, whether it's either going to be a Pancake or you do get the smaller form factor, lighter, which is a big thing and a big thing people don't like about the Crystal. And on the other hand, you've got the Pancake, you got the Aspheric, which is clearer with things like the VR1, the Somnium, the Crystal, and I might be forgetting one. What's the Beyond have? I'm trying to remember.
I think it's Pancake.
Yeah, that sounds right.
They have Pancake as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, and because I don't want to make sure BMAC doesn't miss his football game, let's move on to kind of the next topic of the mid-range, right? So we talked about standalone, how there are a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can't. And I think, and let me know if anyone disagrees, we had two kind of big contenders for mid-range PC VR, about one step beyond standalone. That's going to be, it used to be Quest 2 and PC VR, and then it was the PlayStation VR 2, right? You have a console, you got more horsepower that way. But now we have Quest 3 and PC VR. And, it's getting more expensive, starting at $500 for the Quest 3 or $500 for the PlayStation VR 2. And then you have to add $500 for the PlayStation VR console. And then you got to add $1,000 plus because you're looking at probably closer to $2,000 because you need to run 4K on a PC VR system. And given the price, given inflation and all those different categories, what do we think mid-range VR is going to look like this year? If that makes sense.
I think it all depends on what Sony wants to do, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's kind of waiting for Sony to really justify the reason for owning a PSVR 2. And I think they've provided, I think last year they really had a pretty good year. I think they provided a lot of good games, but right now nothing's really announced, and it's kind of an awkward time. I'm hoping on its 1 year anniversary in I think February that they kind of come out swinging, because if they don't, I think people are going to start offloading those headsets, because if you I was actually looking on eBay, and you can buy a used PSVR 2 for like $350, and it retails for what, $550, like $500,
Yeah.
and that seems like that's a huge like depreciation in the value of a used headset. I don't know if you can find a Quest 3 on eBay right now. I don't know why you really would buy one on there, but I would have to imagine that it's probably retaining its value a little more. And I think that's telling, that there's a lot of people that are kind of moving on from it.
And Artful, who's actually organized a lot of conversations on the Rendered Reality Discords in the chat on YouTube, and he's got kind of 2 points there. And I'll add one to that as well about the PlayStation VR and kind of the mid-range in general. Hopefully I'm not going all over the place here. Artful says, yes, the Pancake lenses are being clearer, and that's a big advantage. And don't forget, PlayStation VR 2, even though it was a step forward over the Quest 2, has Pancake lenses, and is that kind of, leaving it behind. And he's also saying, are we saying mid-range is $1,000? Oh, sorry, I say it wrong. Yeah, PlayStation VR has Fresnel. PlayStation VR 2, a lot of acronyms there, right? Has Fresnel. And Quest 3 moved on to Pancake, and everything else is moving on to Pancake. The games aren't keeping up. And also, too, and to focus on the technology aspect and the peripherals and everything else that adds VR, pretty much I don't know of anything you can add to PlayStation VR 2 as far as adding to immersion with haptics and all those other cool things that I love. So, kind of, I guess one part is PlayStation VR 2 dead? Is there hope? And
I don't think it's dead. I just think they need to just put out more software. I mean, I see Artful says in chat that he offloaded his VR2 within 3 months of owning it. I'm just curious, Artful, if you're willing to share. Were you happy with the price that you sold it for, or did you have to take kind of a bigger loss than what you wanted? We'll give him a second to answer.
Yeah.
But I think Sony made a big mistake making their headset tethered. It's just
yeah, that's like the elephant in the room with the
nobody wants to buy it. Well, some people buy it who own PS5 just for bigger games. But when they see like Quest and the other headsets, they all nowadays it has to be untethered. It just has to be streaming, and just looks so backwards. And even game titles, you look at them and they are mostly catching up with the Quest. So they're adding titles we already have there. And sometimes, maybe there's something like exclusive, but nowhere close to what you can get like in terms of console games exclusive for PlayStation.
Well, it's kind of crazy is they just put out I don't know what's the handheld called that Sony just put out.
I don't know the name of it.
But terminal.
So like
it's not even a handheld. The Portal.
Yeah, the Portal. Thank you. Yeah, so like they were clearly working on that technology at the same time, and they didn't include it in. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a function of the battery. If maybe they didn't want to include the battery to put a headset in, and I guess that's my theory as to why the Quest 3 doesn't have more stuff in it, is because of the battery. So I don't know how long of a play session you could get out of a PSVR 2 if you've got a battery in there running those bright HDR panels with eye tracking. But I don't know.
Wouldn't most people just put a little battery pack on their hip?
Yeah, I think they would.
That's what I do. I bought the Quest 3 with the additional battery in the headset or on the Elite strap, and I'm finding it still doesn't last nearly as long as my Quest 3 does.
It eats through it.
With the
I just use this 20 pounds cheap thing. You put it in the headset and you can play for another hour and a half.
Yeah, it sounds like most people. Good.
Oh, is there any barriers to dev on the PS5. That could also affect how many games get released for it.
I know that, for instance, if you're doing a console game in a lot of the engines like Unity and Unreal, there's an additional license you have to purchase in order to be able to do that. While just kind of like with developing an Apple, you've got to get Apple's developer license or whatever it is. For the Quest, you don't have to do that. You got side quests for your ability to release it out there. There's App Lab, and then of course there's the vetted apps that Oculus puts out, or I should say Meta at this point puts out there for that they've said that this is truly meets their standards as to what the game looks like. So there's multiple levels.
APK. You can't just upload with the Android commands.
You can't. Well, you can, other than putting your Quest in developer mode. That's all you have to do. Yeah, and SideQuest lets you do that very easily.
Yeah, a lot of developers have complained that Sony's barrier to entry to get a game out is just a lot of hoops to jump through.
And that's true for most console games.
Yeah, I saw. I can't remember where the article was, but they had interviewed the Light Brigade devs. And they were talking about their problems with Unity because they couldn't get their eye tracking working with one of Unity's render pipelines. And then they also kind of went on to kind of detail how the Sony standards are really strange, and that you have to do weird things like push multiple buttons together and go over and push a button on the console to see if it crashes the game, and a whole bunch of steps that they had to jump through that no one in their right mind would ever play the game that way. And I don't think those barriers, and maybe the devs here can answer, but I don't think those barriers are really existent in something like Steam, and probably not Oculus either, or Meta, I should say.
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't gotten that far into it yet myself. But releasing for Steam and releasing for SideQuest or App Lab is a lot easier. Going on to the Quest store is much more difficult. They're more stringent there, but I still don't think there's a like a checklist of stuff you got to go through, like you mentioned. But I don't think it's anything like go press this button there and go push this other thing over there. It's more along the lines of how performant are you? Do you ever drop below 72 frames per second? Those sorts of things.
But for Quests, at least there's like another path. You can start just publishing it on SideQuest.
Mm-hmm.
You can even sell it there, and you can be fine with this. And once you polish the game, then you're good to go, and then you get to the main store.
Our SideQuest. Sorry, go ahead. Finish. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, just wanted to add that usually how do you do it? You probably do it for PC first because it's just easier to test and build. But if you're kind of aiming for Quest, probably don't add too heavy graphics, and you try to limit yourself. It's knowing that it will be on mobile, and once you tested it, you can actually release it on Steam or even in itch, which is easier and cheaper, and then you get more money. And then at some point you release it on SideQuest, and then once you're ready, once it's polished, you publish it. Well, at least that's how I see. I haven't done this path yet, but that's at least how I see it.
Yeah, you and I are figuring that out as we go along.
Our SideQuest purchases system agnostic, in that if you buy it on SideQuest, can you play that same game on Pico if you buy a Pico headset later?
I think you just buy the APK. I don't know for sure. I mean, I don't have a Pico, so I don't know. But I think you just buy the APK.
I've bought some SideQuest games, and it's up to the developer. I had one developer give me a Steam key and a Quest key, but in general, they tell you what it's for.
Yeah. If they could somehow make it like just a general key, I think that would attract some people, but it's probably a little niche there too, is my guess.
I think one of the funny kind of ironic things about and I haven't played the PlayStation VR 2. I'm not trying to be overly critical about it, but I do think there's a lot of funny things that way things have shaken out versus expectations. We've got another big powerhouse developer in VR. There's so much potential. We're going to have all these big games. but also much like the expectation, I think, was much like with Meta, that you'd get a very rigorous review process. And then we had things like Horizon Call of the Mountain release, and a lot of people complained about reprojection. We've gotten Firewall Ultra, which was a massive success for PlayStation VR 1. The whole company's going out of business now because it seems like Sony, despite having a reputation for being this great, rigorous development process, and you would think very good quality control, isn't really doing any of that. And I wonder, kind of maybe a segue into kind of another topic might be, since, PlayStation VR is kind of closed, things like HP Reverb G2 is going to be sunsetted as well. In some ways, the middle category of PC VR seems like it's shrinking in terms of headset offerings. Maybe it's expanding through things like we've now seen Steam Link being released, so you can connect without having to buy a virtual desktop or use Quest's AirLink, which is a little confusing, as your bridge between your PC and your headset. You now can, for free, download Steam VR, essentially, to your Quest headset. So that's one thing going on. And then we can also...
Have you tried it, Ender, Steam Link?
I only really had time just to log into it and just try it and really just load a game and see that it worked. That's all I've had time. Do you have some thoughts on it?
It was pretty easy, really. It seemed to work pretty well. It was the foveated rendering was a bit aggressive, I would say. I don't know if it was entirely needed, because I felt like I could kind of get a better experience with virtual desktop, but I kind of like to tweak things, and not everybody likes to tweak things, but yeah, I didn't think it was bad.
How is wireless streaming? Like, is it the same as a cable, or?
Almost.
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close. I was a long time Index guy, and I don't really have many regrets. I occasionally see a little bit of like artifacting, especially in dark scenes, is kind of where I notice it the most. You can kind of see like the blocky effect. But I've been pretty happy with it. Now I've got a Wi-Fi 6 router, not a 6E, and I'm, the router's right here, and I play right back there, so I'm not too far away from it. So it's a pretty easy setup.
Yeah, I'm on a 5 gigahertz, and I rarely see artifact except for like, for instance, if something goes on the PC, like some other task that you forgot to shut down or something, I'll get hit by it at that point, and like any sort of network activity, or if you got something that hits the hard disk, like maybe you got defrag that goes off on Sunday at 4:00 in the afternoon or whatever, that sort of thing will seems to affect me. But other than that, for the most part, I don't even think about the cable anymore. I've had really good experience with it. With Steam Link, I found it to be reasonably stable. But every now and then it'll just disconnect on me, and I'll have to reconnect through Oculus Link to shut down Steam VR and then go back and start Steam Link back up again. So I don't, have to get completely out of the catwalk and walk over to the PC again. Thankfully, I can switch over to Oculus Link and
make little wheels in the bottom of those things with a joystick. You can just hover.
What I need is like a keyboard that I can just pull in, and then do something, push it away again, and then I'd be all right.
Have you seen those? There's
That's
like
a good segue.
Little mini keyboards like this big that have like a little touchpad on the side of it. Yeah, you could look into one of those, and you could just like magnet it to the side of the catalog. Yeah, I've seen some sim racers do that stuff where they just kind of slap it on the side of their rig, and that's how they kind of navigate the menus.
Oh, that's cool. That's something I was thinking of with the force feedback gloves. Is you can make a keyboard, a mouse, a joystick, or whatever just by defining it in software. So that could be like a Steam overlay and whatever keyboard you want, whenever you want.
That'd be so weird. So, Pixel, would it be like if you got your hand here and you just kind of start sinking it down, would you feel the keyboard, or is it just like this is where the key is and this is where that key is?
Well, didn't Boz show that virtual keyboard?
I think the difference is this one, it restricts your finger movement, right, Pixel?
Yeah, that one, so you would feel the keys, and they're working on finger splay.
What is finger
so you can
splay?
even feel sideways.
Oh.
So you could touch type with it. All the other VR gloves just give you vibrating feedback.
Huh.
What you probably won't be able to feel is the little nubs that tell you where the center keys are,
Or
the F and the J.
Yeah.
But you might just make a like a different vibrate pattern for that or something like that.
I would prefer them just to make the hand tracking work better, to be honest. I mean, because this thing is cool, but I don't think it will be practical in many cases. So, for example, often when I work on my game and I I have to tweak things when I'm in VR already because I do something like big and I go jump in there. Oh, it doesn't work. So I actually switch to Unreal and then I start changing things right there. But right now the hand tracking in Airlink doesn't work. So I have to do with the joystick and I actually use the virtual keyboard and I type there and I change the notes in there and it kind of works, but I would prefer to have no controls and I just type on the virtual keyboard and then it would be enough. I think you don't really need to feel the keyboard if as long as the tracking is stable. I think it will be fine. And by the way, I had to buy 6E for streaming. It didn't work for me, the Wi-Fi normal, because I don't know. It depends. I do actually. So I don't know. You probably guys all use virtual desktop, right? For
I
gaming?
do. Yeah.
Yep.
WiGig.
Yeah.
The
So
Vive
virtual
has its own
desktop.
wireless thing.
So virtual desktop worked fine on 6 without 6E. So actually, I didn't have any artifacts or anything. But with virtual desktop, it's not really great to develop. At least OpenXR, it doesn't work well with Unreal. I don't know. It's much easier with the Airlink, at least to start. And Airlink was much heavier. I don't know. It didn't work well. So when I bought this Wi-Fi 6E router, £100, and it works. It works. It's just everything is smooth as a cable.
It's cool you mentioned you used WiGig Pixel. I know that's one thing I'm hoping that the Crystal will eventually develop, and they've been showing more pictures of a WiGig router. What's your experience with that been?
Oh, WiGig is great. It I have no desire to use the cable with it.
That's cool.
There are times when it gets it's more easily interrupted, so you have to be careful of that. But that's the only issue I've had with it.
Yeah, I guess kind of going back to what we were talking earlier about the cable versus the wireless. Like, I feel like Wi-Fi 6 has more high-end potential versus my understanding is with the cable, USB-C with the Quest headsets there's a limit. Even though it's more stable, there's a limit to how many pixels can go through. Wi-Fi 6, yeah, the little bit's higher, but it's less reliable. And then maybe WiGig is best of both, but it seems like it's really slow to develop. Head of Valve, Gabe Newell, was famous for saying when the Index came out, oh, wireless is a solved problem, and we're all going to be using wireless headsets. And here we are, and we're still waiting on things like the Deckard. And there was even a virtual, with the 2000 series NVIDIA graphics cards, you had virtual, I forget what they call it, but it looked like a USB-C port set up specifically for VR, and now those are gone. So thank you, BMAC. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see more.
It is solved. There is the interference. It's a line of sight thing, and it's not even a very strict line of sight. It's like you have to really put a lot in between it.
And I think that'd be great because, one thing we hear about now is even, if anyone has followed it, is bandwidth limits, even with DisplayPort. So, for example, the Big Screen Beyond is actually using slight compression. They say it's not noticeable. The Index even uses compression at that 144 hertz. And some people can notice that. I can't. But if we're now moving towards, even way above Index resolution, we're moving towards true 4K. And we've got all these new headsets coming out, like Somnium VR1, like the XR4 for whoever can afford it, then we're going to run into more and more issues of A, can my PC keep up? And B, can my display ports keep up? Or C, we need WiGig and we need that to come out more. And that's going to be a limitation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Vive has had it for years now.
And that's really funny that we don't see it more widespread then, is kind of what I always wonder about.
Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't seen any even reference hardware for WiGig 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be an issue, but WiGig 1, the Vive caps frame rate at 90 FPS.
Okay.
With WiGig. That's its only limitation. WiGig 2 would probably have no problem going past that.
And most people are happy with 90 hertz, but a lot of people would, why not 120? We're getting newer headsets. And I might have gotten us too much sidetracked with that. But I did want to kind of go back to, maybe a little bit more before we move on to the high end. And we can go into high end with this too, is expanding upon VR, right? So again, for developers, for games, for even things you hear about like the immersed, which is just for work and productivity. We've talked about, okay, so Meta is really popular. Not a lot of mid-range headsets out there. There's a lot of high expensive headsets out there. What does everyone think, or what does everyone hope is, what are they what are you most looking forward to in 2024? What are you most excited about? Whether it's Steam Link, whether it's one thing I forgot to mention, I keep forgetting, which is crazy because everyone's talking about it right now, is the Unreal Injector mod by Praydog. So you can have, I think someone said 11,000 flat VR games now work with PC VR headsets if you know how to set it up. So yeah, I'm going to open it up now. Just what are you most excited for in 2024?
So I'll start. I'll say for me, it's probably the launch of the Apple Vision Pro. I have no desire to buy one myself. I'm can't afford it, but I'm really interested to see how people react to it. I'm interested to see how the media reacts to it, because I think as VR enthusiasts, as we all are here, we've kind of experienced a lot of this stuff for a while now. And I bet Apple will probably be like Apple, and they'll act like they probably invented a lot of this stuff. But either way, I think it's always fun to kind of watch people's minds get blown, the first time they put that headset on. And I think the optical clarity of that, and probably the way it does pass through, I think will really blow a lot of people's minds. So, and I think that's what I'm probably most looking forward to. And I kind of want to see what influences the Vision Pro will have on the rest of the companies that are already in the VR space. Like, will Meta finally try to make their UI a little better, or will it spurn kind of other companies to kind of jump in and try their hand at it? So that's
the more competition, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't afford a Vision Pro either. And Mac is not particularly well known for a gaming platform. No. So I'm not exactly sure what the business case is for the headset. HoloLens did not survive. That's gone the way of the dodo as well. And I see a lot of things about the Vision Pro, which remind me of what they first talked about, what was so great about the HoloLens, and that, being able to place things in the world and so forth. And honestly, the one thing about the Vision Pro that I like is the fact that is the pass through, the reverse pass through for the eyes. Now you have to scan your face ahead of time, because it's not real time your eyes. They are taking an image that you had prepared ahead of time in order to do that. But you get a lot more, I guess, interaction with somebody who's not wearing the headset. You're able to communicate with them a lot in a more personal way than it is with us with our Quests. And you go and you talk to somebody, and you're in pass through, and you can see them just fine, but they can't see your eyes. They can't.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's something that I think that they've got, that it's a bit of a gimmick, but it is something that they've got that the other headsets don't have. But I just don't know what kind of content there's going to be for that device.
Well, I know they've announced, Resolution Games has announced that Demio will be on the Apple Vision Pro, and that'll probably be the premier game on that headset, is my guess. And there'll be other stuff that kind of trickles in. You know, you could probably play, you know, your App Store game on a flat kind of floating screen in some way, maybe.
And they support controllers, so
yeah. But it's another very closed environment. I mean, first off, you got to be an Apple developer. Second off, you have to use Unity. As far as I know, Unreal doesn't have any license in there at this point. But right now, I'm seeing when I go and install Unity, I can see that on my Mac, not on my PC, but on my Mac, I can choose Apple Vision Pro as a experimental library to start working with, even before having a headset. But it's only because I have a Mac and only because I poked around with Unity that I even noticed that. I don't see it anywhere else. I don't see it in Unreal. I don't see it anywhere on a PC. So there's just this one little narrow pathway to get to it at this point, and then releasing for it. I just see there's going to be a ton of hurdles to get over in order to be able to release a title in that environment.
Yeah, it's not going to be a gaming
look
device.
Easy.
It's not going to be easy for an indie.
No.
That's for sure. A studio would be able to do it, but an indie like me, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was kind of thinking about where Apple wants to go with it. At least from what I've seen of the pictures, and I could be wrong, but you don't have peripheral vision. So if their whole idea is that you're not disconnected from the real world, but you can't see what's around you, like the Lynx R1 gives you peripheral vision. So you can, be in mixed reality. You can be connected to the world. With Apple's, you can't. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to use one at a coffee shop except maybe in a commercial.
Yeah. Stock photography, maybe you'll see it there.
But if you can't do that, are you going to play that game in the park where the zombies are chasing you? You'd fall over, like the first thing that hits you from the side. Okay, that's probably a weird example, but I don't know if Apple really wants to be do they want you to be connected to the world or not?
Great question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like they don't even know exactly what they want to do with the headset, and they're just kind of, I forget who some of the commenters said, it's a dev kit, right? It's a really expensive way for people to create, which is cool. But what worries me again is when I play VR, I like immersiveness. I want to feel like I'm in that world. And in every example of that launch they showed us, it's kind of like you said, Pixel, where there's a floating window, which is the main focus, but the peripheral vision, it could be mixed reality, I think, but more often than not, they showed like a generated static picture with a floating window, which to me is not VR. That's a floating window or mixed reality, which is not what I'm after. Much less it's, I don't know what Hideo Kojima was doing in that presentation, because I was hoping I was going to get Metal Gear in VR or something like that, and that's the farthest thing from what I've seen.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, it's all replace your laptop with, a headset.
Why buy a TV?
I would buy it, but I'm afraid it's not going to work this way. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be difficult to wear it. There's a problem with the battery. Compatibility probably will be some issues. But I would agree with BMAC. It's probably the biggest thing we are waiting in the next year, because there are no other big announcements at the moment. Well, apart maybe from, it's not that big, but Slime VR is there shipping is good. Full body tracking will be affordable, which is always good. But apart from this, I don't know. For me, it's mostly the software, which is more exciting next year, not the hardware. Hardware, we'll see. Maybe there will be some more announcements. Apple is a kind of weird case, so we will see what happens. But again, I don't think it will be adopted massively.
Yeah.
But
I hope that's their expectation for it too, and it probably is. I think they understand it's a high price.
It's probably their next product, like light version, will be better doing in terms of like selling, but they kind of show what's possible, and then people say, okay, great, let's catch up, and let's what can we do like commercially. But in terms of software, there are more things I think which can happen, and also we don't have any big announcements of games yet. But I think what happens now that VR, most VR games, they're now on Unreal. Well, a lot of games they're on Unreal 4, and now that a lot of the titles they migrate into Unreal 5, and then we get new things like Lumen and Nanite, and things which will improve the graphics like dramatically, and now it's possible. It's like before you couldn't do it, but now it's even possible to do these things on standalone headsets, and also like in Unreal you'll get possibility to create much bigger worlds. You can do like while streaming, the maps will be bigger, and it opens up possibilities for like open world games there. And so all these things, I think they'll probably won't see any big titles yet in next year, but at least we'll hear something about them, and I'm quite excited about this.
Oh, that brings up something. Vive has these camera-based trackers, the inside-out ones. Aside from the fact that you can't cover them up, I think they actually have better potential than Slime. I mean, I'm usually an advocate for open source, but I haven't had a lot of success with IMU trackers, with how often you have to recalibrate them and stuff. But the inside-out tracking, I mean, it works great on the headsets. From what I understand, it works really good with the Quest Pro controllers. I don't see why it wouldn't work really well with the Vive trackers. And they're expensive, but that's just because they don't make a lot of them. Economy of scale should fix it.
The problem with those peripherals, if they are more expensive than the headset, then it's really like few people buy them. And IMU trackers, I think they have a potential to, if you can make them work, you can get better sensors, better algorithms, then they have really good potential to be mass market. And Catwalk, for example, has no chance in this regard. And Slime VR, they made a good progress because price is better, but it's still, I think it should be cheaper. So if we see mass adoption in Vive trackers, it's just too much.
And I just have to quickly chime in here. Thank you to Blue Bottles for donating £3 on the stream. That's much appreciated. I've only had one other donation so far while stream's going on. And also, I want to open it up to the chat. If anyone else has any interest in other topics they'd like us to discuss, either right now or in streams I might do on this channel in the future with either of these guests. And I welcome other perspectives as well. You can always reach out on Discord and let me know why you think you'd want to be invited in the chat. And and I think the self-tracking trackers, it's strange to me it hasn't released from Vive with Quest compatibility, because there's so many VR chatters out there. There's more and more VR social media platforms like RiffXR, I think Resonite. There's so many that are starting to develop. It seems like such a natural fit to be able to have trackers that don't have the complexities of IMU, that you don't need Lighthouse base stations for. And yeah, it's great for social VR. It's even great for if anyone's ever played Dragon Fist Kung Fu or Blade and Sorcery, where you can actually kick and get a kick in the game. I feel like there's so much potential with those. Does anyone see that growing? Does anyone see that not happening? The full body tracking element. I mean, it feels like something Meta really needs for the Horizons world.
I think the price will come down with scale.
I think a lot of it depends on the size of your play space. If you've got a small play space, I think it would be hard to justify buying a bunch of trackers. Like I would love to play the Dragon Fist game with like a foot tracker, and like kick somebody. But I'm probably gonna hit the little trampoline over there that we got the kids or something. So I'll try to avoid that. I think I like my limbs.
Yeah, I do have a big play space, and playing Blade and Sorcery with the full body tracking has been really good.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Like it even reacts differently. Like you do a side kick or a round kick, the foot will look awkward, but the effect you'll get will be about what you're expecting.
Ender,
How do you play? Do you play?
So, Ender, would you do like a full roundhouse kick with a Pimax crystal on?
Oh, I mean, I don't own it, so it's not. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've done, the funny thing is I've done running, and then at the time there wasn't a jump feature built into the cat. So then I'd hit the button to jump and do a kick, and it worked. So now I need to go back and try it with a cat. Now that does have a feature on there now. It's a little finicky where you jump on the treadmill and you'll jump in the game. It triggers the jump button. So I need to, because that's doable. And I forget who I talked to. And they now have co-op even for that Kung Fu game. So imagine that, right? You're on a treadmill, you got full body tracking, and it's co-op for now. It's like kind of a martial arts fighting game. And then what I really want is when it's 2-player, not co-op. So you can have a physical fight with trackers on a treadmill and you're fighting each other. I don't know if the developer's there yet, but that's something I'm hoping for down the road. Aside from just, the VR chatters, which is a huge component.
Then we need the exit suit.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying we need the exit suit for if you want to like fight someone. So when they push you down, you actually go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Wasn't there a mixed reality game that was supposed to come out that was like, it was like kind of like a co-location thing where it was like a physical like melee fight with somebody in your same play space?
Oh,
Did you guys see anything on that?
Oh, I like this.
Right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, what is that? There's something in here. I can't remember what the hell it is now.
I'm trying to remember what that one was called.
I don't know if it was like one of those
VR,
like Vegas experiences.
yeah.
I forgot how clunky the exit suit is.
Yeah, space. If you don't have room for Vive trackers,
Yeah.
but what's cool is you can build it yourself, like the Lucid gloves.
Can you pull up the Holotron?
I can look for it. Sure. I never heard of that one. Tell me about it while I look it up.
That's a better design than the exit suit.
Okay. Let me find it here.
But it's also like it could be a decade if it ever exists. Yeah. Like someone else will probably make it before they do.
Let's see here.
For exit suit, are you tethered somehow? How it works? Does it control your body? Actually, if you go down in the game, it also brings you on the floor.
The exit suit is supposed to be full body force feedback, and so is the Holotron. But if you look at the design of the Holotron, that's the prototype. If you scroll up a little, you'll see where they want to go with it.
Okay, I don't want to play the video because I'm going to get in trouble for that. Is this kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, they have a better design elsewhere.
Okay,
but it's a lot more open-ended. Yeah,
this would beat out the cat treadmill for those kind of reactions for sure, and trackers.
You'd need a tall ceiling though,
and a lot of power. Yeah. You would definitely need like a dryer plug at the very least.
Yeah,
that's cool.
This is not suitable for home. This is more like for arcades, but that would be cool anyway.
I'd be willing to raise my ceiling to have one of those at home.
I would be afraid that it can break me because I don't know. It's, how do they control the force? I do martial arts. I know it's really easy to make suffer someone. If your limb twists in the wrong direction and then the force applied, then it can be quite bad.
Yeah, you definitely have to have some limits, but that's something I've been wondering about. Is I think for the whole slide mill thing, it wouldn't be terribly hard to rig them so you can like crawl on the ground as well as jumping.
Like have sensors on your elbows or something like that?
Yeah, and also just rig them so that physically you can crawl, because sometimes you want to crawl under stuff or through stuff and climb stuff.
Well, I know my C2 is going to have more range. Like the core, I think, has got more range than the C2 does.
Yeah, I can't jump in the C2.
I can't jump in my C2. I mean, I can, but I hit the top, and then I've got it set on the lowest setting, so my wife can use it as well. And yeah, I still can't quite get down on my hands and knees with it, and I can jump higher than it'll let me jump. And yeah, so I think a core probably has a lot more range than the C2 does.
Yeah, I asked them, like, can you guys send me just the back if I can bolt that onto my C2? And they just said it's not compatible. It's a shame because, yeah, I'm short enough at about 5'8" that I can get onto a crouch and shoot in Pavlov and stuff, but I can't go prone. And that's a shame because I've even got the bipod for my Pro Tube, so I can even do that. And that's the one thing I miss about the treadmill is being able to go fully prone, or even if a Metal Gear comes out, which is never going to happen. Yeah, being able to crawl through the jungle and all that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and some like arm, if you can get something going over your body and arm to like extend maybe the Lucid gloves, then when you're climbing, you could get some resistance climbing.
Like in the climb, that would be awesome.
Yeah, but you'd have to really be careful how you design it to not accidentally hurt yourself, as Oshev brought up earlier.
Or as we've seen if you've seen Genghis VR, she did a B-Haptics gear plus the OWO electrical stimulation suit, right? Where there is no, last I checked, there is no upper limit. And I think I read some story about someone, like passing out because you're being tasered, basically, right? And maybe if Artful, I joke about it with Artful in chat sometimes. I'm like, hey, are you doing all right? I haven't heard from you in a while. Did the OWO suit leave you, tasered on the floor somewhere? Yeah, those are some legit concerns.
I got a request from someone to simulate the feeling of piercing her skin without actually piercing her skin.
That sounds like, yeah.
The OWO suit looked like the closest thing to being able to do that. And Genghis only sets it at like 20% of its capacity. So
and
I'm
she
really
looks like
curious.
She says she's feeling stabbed or something like that, I think.
She did once clarify that it doesn't really feel like being stabbed. It's more just electrical shocks.
Okay.
And I would love to have something that does make all those feelings. I'd actually test it and see how close it is.
Right.
So you're gonna stab yourself to find out?
Stab yourself, yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, does this feel like a real stabbing? I don't know.
Not quite sure.
I mean, I've done a lot of like play piercing and stuff like that. So
Artful says he still hasn't tried it yet. So Artful, you'll have to come join us next time after you've tried it out. And I know he's been trying a lot of Unreal 4 engine Prey Dog mods. And come on next time and let us know about those things.
So I saw earlier that VR Spry guy was saying that he was looking forward to hopefully the Valve Deckard being announced in 2024.
Shut up and take my money if that thing happens.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on that one. That one's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a rumor. It's speculation. I put it on the shelf next to String Theory.
Yeah, it sounds like the holy grail for the next 10 years or something, if it ever comes out. I mean, there's a lot of signs, but you never know because Valve, they say, works on Valve time. And if you ever watch a documentary and how they work, it's do whatever you want. And if it becomes profitable, you get a bonus. And if you don't make any money, then you're out. So people will just work on stuff for years, whatever they want to work on. It's more complicated than that. Their pay scale is crazy.
Yeah, but, it was isn't it like voted on by the employees?
Yeah.
That's weird. It's really weird.
And they wait. So even if it's not your project, if you want to do something that nobody else does, nobody else wants to work on that project, like say updating the sales process in the Steam store, and you do that and nobody else wanted to do it, so they give you votes for doing the work nobody else wanted to do, you could make more money than someone who developed a game because you were a team player. It's some crazy scale like that. So if you think about the Valve headset, yeah, who knows how they're prioritizing that in that voting system, which is
So
what it
we
comes
have,
down to.
We got to get someone to like tour one of the Valve buildings, and like ask them these questions.
They're probably pretty tight-lipped on it.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
Yeah. Like you got to be even a top tier YouTuber. Doesn't get invited in there. I think the guy who did the no clip documentary on Half-Life Alyx might have been the only guy who got to go into Valve. Yeah, they're like the most secretive company.
If the Deckard releases 2 versions, say there's one that's just streaming your PC VR to your headset, and say there's another version that is standalone that also can stream to your headset, what would you buy? Right,
No wires.
Yeah.
No,
well, yeah.
I mean, I don't care if it has to have a hard drive to put games on standalone. I just want it to be wireless to the PC.
Because yeah, I saw Artful said in chat $2,000 for Valve Deckard, and man, if I've got my $2,000 computer already, I would rather buy a headset that just does wireless streaming without the standalone stuff in it. And I kind of think that's a lot of Valve's customer base on for their VR users, because they all have computers, right? So I'm fully on board with it being standalone, but I wonder if they offer that option without standalone compute on board, which one would sell better?
It's funny you said that, because I've been watching about the Somnium VR1, which is now going to be, I think it's 1,800 pounds, or close to probably $2,000 in US dollars, which is a lot of what removes, in theory, what a lot of people don't like about the Crystal. It removes the standalone capability, same screen as far as we know. Pancake lenses, I think it's Pancake lenses, similar form factor. It's much more expensive, but same, and it eliminates the battery, eliminates the standalone stuff. So it should be lighter.
It's tethered, right?
It is tethered. In fact, if you want to use the mixed reality, you got to use 2 cables, which looks kind of weird. So
I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very, very niche use case. So it's not wireless, but it's more expensive with less features than the Crystal. Granted, it's got but some people will pay more because they don't want the standalone capabilities, because they don't want that complexity. So, here we are looking at, $1,800, $1,500-ish headsets. Where's the Deckard going to sit? Even if Deckard could be subsidized, but they're not going to lose $1,500. Where's it's price wise, it could still be $2,000. It could be $1,500. Will it be standalone? Will it be PC VR? It sounds like it's going to be hybrid based on the last patents I've seen.
Yeah, but when's GPU prices going to come down? I mean, like, my guess is Valve's looking at this stuff and they're going, hardware is pretty expensive. Our customers, they need hardware to play the games on our platform. I mean, you don't have to have the top end thing, but even getting like a 3070 is double the price of what it was, 5 years ago. So I don't know what they do.
Are PCs even going to be a thing 10 years from now?
So you're saying you'd have like a dumb terminal that you would stream to, Pixel?
No, like cloud, like cloud.
Yeah. Cloud and smaller devices, because PCs are becoming, outside of gamers. Okay, most people I know only have a PC if they need one for work, or if they're a gamer.
Yeah.
But
my PC for work connects to a virtual desktop where I got to do my work.
That's what mine does. Yeah.
So yours could just be a tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use a laptop to remote into a more powerful computer at the office.
I did all my work locally, and then committed my code to the repository for work, which then recompiled it and deployed it out to the cloud. So I was kind of a hybrid. I worked both locally as well as in the cloud. and that's how several of my previous jobs have gone. I don't see in the near future, 10 years, I don't know, maybe. It could be that we are at the point where we are just, we're basically working with dumb terminals at home and talking to the cloud. Going back to the 80s,
which is going back in time because we had that already.
Yeah, in the 80s, I was doing VT 100 stuff and talking to an Android. Yeah.
I remember dumb terminals.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm not the only old one here.
Yeah,
I was also thinking
that work remotely all the time because, well, I work on now on large language models, and it's hard to run them locally. So it's all my work is all in clouds, just connects, and I still run local applications, but all development goes in the clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other reason is mobile devices are becoming so much more powerful that we're getting closer and closer to just not needing PCs. Like now, standalone headsets are very limited. You go forward a few years, Qualcomm, there's no way they're not throwing a lot of engineers at the next XR chip.
Yeah,
because that's make them a ton of money.
You can't even really find a 4090 in stock now, though, which is crazy. So there's still people out there buying it. And it could be for AI stuff, really. It's maybe what a lot of cards are going for.
No, when I bought mine, they knew.
Yeah,
they knew that was why.
But I just went into Micro Center. Sorry, Andrew. I just went into Micro Center, and that place was packed. And there were so many people in there buying hardware. So I think PC gaming will still be around for a while. Myself, I think people like it. I think there's people out there that like to build it, and they like to tweak it, and they like to benchmark it, and they like to chase FPS more than they kind of like to chase who they're shooting at. But I just wonder if Valve's looking at the hardware market and going, we kind of need to make our own console, because I think there were some rumors on if they were making a console, because there was a leak, right? There's a video where it was sitting kind of on somebody's desk, and it's kind of sitting there in the background. And I guess I'm just not completely convinced that the Deckard is going to be a fully standalone device. And if it's not, then I wonder if Valve first will release a console that will stream to it. Because then you could buy it say if you've got your big gaming PC, you can buy a Deckard and stream to it if that's the case, or you can buy Valve's console and stream to it. Because I think there's a serious hardware problem that PC gaming's facing, and Valve has to respond to that.
Something is changing. Before, if you want to enter VR, you probably would start with PC, but nowadays you probably if you're new to this thing, you buy Quest 2 because it's very cheap. You want to try it. You try it for a while, and maybe you're happy with it, but if you really like it, you buy Quest 3. And then at some point, if you're really into it, you buy PC. And then when you you start, oh, great, now I have PC, now I can add peripherals, great. And you start buying other things. And I see it kind of like a progression, and everybody finds their level at some point. And they say, okay, I'm good with Quest 3 and I don't need anything else. That's enough for me. But some people say, no, I really want more. I want to tweak things. I want to add things, and I buy PC. And then you can try more new stuff, which is not mainstream yet. But the thing is, the better the standalone becomes, the earlier people will stop. So if before you buy something like standalone, it's oh, that's really bad, and then you immediately want to buy a PC. Now you can be fine with Quest for years, or maybe forever. And next Quest 4 you probably say, oh, I don't need PC at all. And if Meta opens up a little bit, and you can add peripherals there, then that's it.
I think that probably depends on how much PC hardware advances in that time too. Because if you can buy something that's equivalent, to a 4090 for $500, it's a pretty sweet card. But who knows if NVIDIA or AMD even, kind of get off their asses and do that.
That's another problem. The PC form factor has limits that are just technological limits. There's latency between the parts that SBCs get around. They don't have as much of the latencies and stuff. There's a point where it'll be easier to have more performance when you package everything together. And I know PCs can just keep expanding in bandwidth, but I see that becoming an issue later on. I don't think that's something that will kill PCs, but people will notice that this little box will do X faster than the PC will.
Yeah, like I do hear that, obviously you got things like the deck and you've got the PlayStation 5 where you have, my understanding, it's the APU, you've got things more integrated. Apple does it, and that's what you mean by the less latency, correct, Pixel? Or do you mean something else with the SBCs? I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Yeah, the latencies between the parts, between the RAM and the processor.
Okay.
Or when you start merging things. I mean, you get to things like neuromorphic, and the RAM is the processor, but that's a ways out.
So kind of going back to what BMAC was saying, kind of along those lines, is what I think might be the holy grail in theory is, so if you're using something like mobile software, if you're using, what's the word I'm looking for? The Quest 3, and you're using an APU, right? Integrated CPU, GPU, right? One chip, right? And stop me if I'm wrong at any point on this. And PlayStation 5 does the same thing, and Apple does the same thing with its platform versus traditional x86 architecture, where you have a CPU, GPU, what we're used to on a PC. There's compatibility problems with software with the way they're designed. So that's why my understanding is Valve is working on an x86 integrated soft chip, or is the Steam Deck actually a single APU that's x86 based? Am I right on that? I'm going
I
somewhere.
thought it was Unix based.
x86 is hardware, Unix is software, and it's both. It's Linux.
Okay. So here's where I'm kind of thinking with this. So if the integrated x86 Unix thing that the Steam Deck has, right, is it's more cost efficient, it's less latency. It maybe doesn't have the true horsepower of a PC yet, but maybe it's going that way, right? And all of Valve's or Steam's library is x86 based, PC based, right? Wouldn't the perfect headset be, as far as Valve's concerned, is a powerful x86 Linux APU VR headset so it can connect to their store without a PC, similar performance, and the price more in line with a Quest headset? Am I wrong in my assumptions anywhere on that?
I don't think so.
No, that totally makes sense. And that would give you, if you wanted an upgrade path to stream from a PC, you would still be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Apple kind of did that with their MacBooks, where everything just got shoved together, which is why if you buy one with 32 gigs of RAM, you just can't shove another 32 gigs into it.
Yeah,
But and you can throw storage into the same thing. Storage isn't as like if you have NVMe on what's otherwise an SBC, you'd be fine, because storage, you can expect latency in it. You're preloading what you need to preload as long as you have enough RAM. And you could have peripherals outside of that, and that could be what replaces the modern PC for tweakers.
So what if what if the APU in the Valve Deckard is hot swappable? And that like 2 to 3 years, you just go and you yank it out, and you put a new one.
It's not soldered in.
Yeah. I don't know how you could do that if there's a.
I'd be skeptical of that because in 3 years, the buses are going to improve. Everything around the APU is going to improve. You'd probably swap out the SBC itself and then plug your new your peripherals into that.
Yeah. So, what if there's just, I don't know, you take the whole brain of whatever the Deckard is and you make it kind of like how Pimax does their hot swappable batteries. You just kind of slot it in.
You keep the lens. You keep the LCD screens, because those are pretty high end already.
Yeah, you just have to worry about like all the peripherals, make sure it's something you don't want to change in a few years. And then the rest of it could totally be packaged like I think Tesla's doing that with their the driving computers in their cars.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how possible that really would be, but
It's a matter of the peripherals. Like you're trying to avoid bottlenecks.
Yeah.
So if it has the same amount of power, you could design it with like 2 or 3 times as much available power in case you need it later.
Yeah, because the power draw would probably change, right? If you have this, 2024 APU, and then you get one that you upgrade in 2028, the power draw is going to be a lot different, isn't it?
Yeah, the power draw, and then you could make sure that the peripherals are well beyond what they could need. Like the lenses, you're only going to have so much resolution, and once you can pump enough pixels through it for 144 frames or whatever, so that's the connector you have. There isn't much point upgrading past that. Like USB 4 Thunderbolt, probably fine.
If field of view stays the same, do we really need much more resolution than Quest 3?
You say that, but you haven't tried a crystal.
You're right. Yeah,
and that's what I thought too, coming from a Reverb G2. You don't know what you don't know, and that can be a good thing for your wallet.
Yeah,
so maybe I won't go to your house ever and try that crystal out.
It'll be free, but it'll be expensive in other ways.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, if we get this more into, that's actually one of the things I think the big difference for most people buying them between the Quest 3 and 2 is, do you want mixed reality? And I know the Quest 2 can do it in black and white, but if you want mixed reality, you're probably willing to spend the extra $200 on it. And then
I think the Quest
future,
3 is more than mixed reality in improvements.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
I mean, it performs better, and it looks better.
I agree, Michelle. For enough for people to pay twice as much. I don't know. I haven't seen one yet.
Depends on who you are. It's well worth it to me.
I thought it was
also the mixed.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I've talked enough. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say I don't think you should underappreciate the mixed reality. I don't know, when they said there will be mixed reality, I was a bit skeptical, but actually I don't know, I really liked it.
I love the mixed reality too, but that wasn't the selling point for me, and that wasn't what said to me, yes, this is worth the extra couple $100.
But this is because you already were in VR. But for example, when I show it to my friends, mixed reality is what impresses them the most.
Right.
And then they see, wow, you can actually see the walls are breaking. You have this aliens invading your room, and I don't know, it's much better than I thought. And actually now in every new game where you don't need to move, like you don't have locomotion and you just stand. Actually, I expected to have some kind of mixed reality, because it's just interesting. It's different, and especially if there's some zombies entering your room or something like this, it's promising. I think that's one of the other things I'm waiting for in the next year. So all the games we have where you don't have to do the locomotion, most of them, they'll add some kind of mixed reality. So it'll be interesting.
I think it just needs that killer app. It doesn't really have much to really sink your teeth into yet.
That was a big thing for me. So let me ask this: Quest 3 starts at $500. Would you rather for that? Everything costs money on the headset, right? So would you rather have, for say, instead of it being $500, would you be okay with it being? Would you rather it be $400 if it didn't have the mixed reality capability, or? What I thought was I'd rather have it still be $500, but it had eye tracking for dynamic foveated rendering, so I get better performance. Because there's only so much you can put in there for that price limit they're going for. What does everybody think?
Might apply to someone who's already familiar with VR, but someone new to it is going to look at foveated rendering and performance and just kind of glaze over it. Like, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
And those are the people you sell headsets to, people who don't have headsets.
But also the eye tracking things, I don't think you can compare with mixed reality, because I think they require much more heavier sensors and the hardware. I don't think it's you can compare with price and what the how harder they make the headsets to be more cheap. So you can see that Quest Pro just didn't work. It was just the price was too high, and then they had to sell it like for peanuts compared to what they produced. And I don't think that was an option, to be honest. That like mixed reality or eye tracking is just not on the same level. But
Okay.
the mixed reality also, it's not just I think it's not a gimmick, especially if they add multiple rooms. So imagine suddenly you can actually run around your house, especially if you have a big house, and you can play some shooter, actually run from room to room by the stairs, and you shoot bad guys in your house, and you don't need even locomotion. You just moving around your house. Isn't it
Yeah, I think
great?
mixed reality is gonna be the default. Like you
Yeah,
can play
that's
Beat Saber in
Mhm.
your room with your friends watching you, and it's like your place. I could even
Yeah.
see mixed reality clubs existing where people have virtual decorations on
everyone's going to the
themselves while they
club
interact.
to jump
Yeah,
into
like
VR chat
I mean,
together.
that's VR
But
chat,
not
right?
club.
During
physically
COVID
there.
in particular.
I'm talking about a place where people are
Yeah.
physically there
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
just using mixed
so am
reality
I.
as part of their.
It'd be like you could go to a VR chat club in reality that's set up with augmented reality targets on the wall or something that make those decorations show up.
Or some sort of version of Dead and Buried with mixed reality, where I don't know if you've seen the arena set up for Dead and Buried when it first came out, but they had a bunch of people that were physically located, but they were all in virtual reality together in an area that was equivalent to the actual physical area that they were in, but all their geometry and so forth had to be recreated for that arena. Well, for a mixed reality sort of environment, you wouldn't need those physical things there. You would just have everybody in the same area and whatever invasion event or whatever is happening. Like what's that one game where Breachers? Can you imagine doing Breachers in a mixed reality environment where you're basically like in a great big basketball court or something, and then the mixed reality comes in and builds those walls and so forth and knocks those out and so on as the teams play.
You know what that reminds me of? Zimtalk 5 talked a lot about Space Pirate Trainer has a mode where people will go out and rent a tennis court or a basketball court. I think Zimtalk on his channel, he just did it in his backyard. He's careful about the sunlight. And yeah, it sets up virtual barriers for you to duck behind and things like that. You have to use a very large space for that mode, which is why most people haven't used it. But yeah, my understanding is that it exists, but the problem is finding the space for it.
Yeah. So if I was just thinking that if I was going to do something like that, I would probably aim for somebody like a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
You back the 2 cars out and play in that area. And that's your generic arena size.
I've thought about doing that myself.
Yeah.
I was involved in a thing. It's called Neotropolis. It's a cyberpunk festival. And the first year we were building what was kind of like a retreat for the non-humans, for the cyborgs and robots. And the guy running it wanted to like have the screen mix with VR chat so that there could be interaction between the two. The problem was we were out in the middle of the desert where you couldn't even get a phone signal, let alone an internet connection. But now we have Starlink. Now we can actually do something like that.
Yeah.
And sorry to interject. I just had a few things from the chat I want to mention, and we should probably start wrapping up soon. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation, but we've gone about an hour longer than I was aiming for.
My phone's overheating.
Yeah. So I just want to bring one more thing from the chat and then maybe start closing things up. But maybe we can continue this afterwards tonight. I'm thinking maybe it'd be fun to do something. And some others people in this group have mentioned they like to do something in VR chat. I'll post something on my Discord in maybe to start in 2 hours if anyone wants to meet up there and continue conversing there, or anyone in watching on YouTube wants to continue. So a couple comments I just kind of want to end with from the chat. So Arlen was saying, no joke, Quest 3 makes me want the Quest 4 because of the possibility of real-time mixed reality AI cooking apps. Quest 3 isn't there, but Quest 4 maybe. Artful says, there's some storage solutions out there. Apple talks about a Pocket when we were talking about storage latency. Techno's glad I didn't cut my fingers off in that video. Don't worry, I worried my mother too. And then let's see. Some other things in here. Artful says mixed reality is big in VR chat. I've seen someone on their bed with his or her VR MR friends. And then Quest is one generation away from a complete mixed reality experience, in my opinion. All about developing the software now. So, we've had so many great conversations about a lot of things to look forward to. And I've really enjoyed this. Has been a very positive focused podcast. I've learned so much from all of you with a lot of technical knowledge in areas I don't, and hearing other people's opinions and experiences. So I hope we can come back again in the future and maybe have some more guests on, some more perspectives. This has been a pretty general chat, very experimental podcast. Maybe I'll do some more planning next time and we can figure out where do we want to go and focus and deep dive in particular areas. So I'll post something for maybe in about 2 hours from now in VR chat. And I just wanted to turn this back over to you, my guests. Is there any other final thoughts you'd like to share of things you'd like to see us explore in another podcast before we sign off today?
While they're getting caught up, I'll say that I like to use the MR stuff to kind of, at least right now, to kind of navigate through the Unreal Injector mod. It's nice to just tap into mixed reality and kind of look at the screen and press inject, and kind of get it started a little bit and then kind of transition back in. So I like using MR to really just to see where I'm at, to check my phone every now and then. I find it useful. So I would pay the extra $100 for it myself.
Yeah, I'd second that. I can read my phone. I can use my phone. I can actually look at my PC and so forth with Quest 3.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't do it with Quest 2.
Yeah, I wish the cameras would transition that exposure a little quicker so you could see the bright of the screen a little faster. But yeah, that's what I do. That's what I use it for too.
The Vive Cosmos actually had a flip up feature for being able to check your phone.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That would be really nice too.
I don't buy one. I had one. Well, okay, for me, my nose was too big to use it. But aside from that, the thing glitched all the time. People with glasses, they just couldn't fit in it. Those were really the two big problems I have, and then just the glitchiness. The Pro 2 is way better.
Cool. Anyone else? Any other final thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I can just a couple of words. As final thoughts. Well, first of all, thank you so much for organizing this, for having us today.
Thank you, Andrew.
And,
thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
And I think the biggest thing, I don't know, at least I want is like more people in VR, and that's the most important. Then you have more people, you have more people creating stuff, more people consuming stuff, so it's more motivation for developers to do anything for VR. And I think it's on the right track. It's just a bit slow, too slow. I wish it progressed much faster than we see now. But there are good positive signs. So hopefully 2024 will be fruitful in this regard. And I want to see more of my friends being there, because now it's like a bit lonesome experience. I have only a couple of friends. And sometimes now they add me, new friends, they add me. And every time I'm excited. There's another one. And then you can, hang out not with just strangers, but also with friends. Maybe you had, you were very close many years ago, and then suddenly you can be with them. Do you not just catch up on things, like what happens like when you talk to someone, what's happened to you? No, you actually can do stuff with them. You can connect, you can play things, you can fish, go fishing or whatever. And this is the most exciting part for me. And let's see what happens next year.
Yeah,
Ender, did we get? I think Bluebell had a donation too. Did you get
Yes.
that one?
Yes, we did. So I think it's the first donation I've gotten from
No,
a
not-
live stream.
No, Bluebell also. So
Oh,
like,
Bluebell also. Cool.
Yeah. She was a $10 donation. It
Oh,
says,
wow.
Great stream, Enders. Great guests. Nice to put some faces to names. Is what she
Yeah, I
said.
see that now. Thank you so much, Bluebell. Yeah, sorry, it's a little multitasking, managing the streaming software and the chat and everything else. I'll get better at it or promote one of you to help me out with that next time. So, yeah, so we've gone plenty long, and thank you all for your time. Thank you all for the conversations. Like I said, once I sign off here, I'll create a meetup of some kind for maybe an hour or two from now in case anyone wants to join me, and I'll do probably VR chat and wants to continue the conversation. Hope to do more in the future. And thank you all. Enjoy a wonderful New Year's Day, and hope to see you all next time.
All right, take care.
Bye.
everybody.
It was great
fun.
meeting you
Thank
all.
you.
Mhm.
All right.